When you enter the highly advanced virtual reality game New Gate D, you choose the character you wish to embody, whether it be a monster, a friendly creature, a human, or even a lord. After making your choice, you can do whatever you please within the game. Some may seek to defeat monsters, others may craft legendary weapons, and you can even build friendly relationships. But unfortunately, when players attempt to log out, they cannot find the exit button, trapping them inside the virtual world. To make matters worse, those who perish within it also die in reality. Then, the awaited hero appears. His name is Shin, who rises to challenge the game. He begins his journey by battling through multiple levels until he reaches the final boss. The battle is fought blow by blow, and in the end, Shin emerges victorious, believing he has ended the game. He opens the player list and finds that everyone has already logged out, so he sighs in relief and says, "Goodbye, New Gate. Let's see something else now." But the door that appears behind him emits a blinding light, and Shin collapses, unconscious. He ends up in a spacious room, surrounded by everything physically as if it were real. He opens the game menu again and finds that his stats, skills, and titles earned from the final boss have increased tenfold. He concludes that these numbers are proof he has completed the game and searches for the exit button, but cannot find it. Even the player list doesn't work. He screams in vain, then calms down and picks up a small device resembling a bird, apparently a home location tracker, and follows it. As he walks, he notices pictures hanging here and there in the city that weren't there before. He continues until he reaches his house, where 3 people are standing at a woman's door, trying to kidnap her by force. As soon as they drag her out, a massive wild boar appears, causing them to flee in panic while it charges toward the victim. Shin jumps in front of it and delivers a powerful kick that knocks it to the ground. The girl stands up, visibly flustered, so Shin takes her inside and reassures her. She tells him the men were interrogating her about her teacher, Rose, and that they intended to kidnap her. She introduces herself as Tara and asks, "Didn't you remember anything about the house? Doesn't that mean you know my teacher?" Shin inquires about the teacher's appearance, and she tells him that she is short in stature, with silver hair and fair skin. He memorizes this to remember that she is Elif. Tara asks how Shin knew this, and he replies that they are just old memories. She tries to convince him about Rose's place, but he refuses, considering her an important figure pursued by many. Tara demands he pay 1,000 yen to reach her with a message. Shin pulls out a small coin from his pocket and says he doesn't have the amount but promises to gather it. Tara is shocked and informs him that the coin enhances magic and is worth no less than 10 billion yen. When Tara asked Shin, "Who exactly are you?" Shin was flustered by the coin's value exceeding 1 million and replied, "I'm an adventurer from the Samian human lineage." Tara was even more astonished and said, "How is that possible? All Samians disappeared 500 years ago in a strange incident marking the beginning of the prosperity era. How are you still alive after all these centuries?" Even more astonishing, 5 Samians vanished along with many others. Shin then deduced that they were in the future, 500 years inside this game. He agreed with Tara that she would deliver his message to her teacher Rose, merely an explanation, nothing more, and that she could use the currency for her own purposes, considering she was an elf. He asked her about the reason for the protective rituals Rose had imposed, and she replied that elves with blue hair had always been unlucky, cursed to attract monsters. Hence, Rose had erected a barrier to repel them. Then Shin asked her, "If the elf's hair is blue, what is the true color of Rose's hair?" Tara replied, "It was originally silver, but it changed over time." At that moment, Shin realized she was cursed and reassured her, "Don't worry, I have purification magic capable of lifting the curse," pointing to a small strand of her changing hair. He sensed something unnatural, but Tara was so overjoyed that she shed tears of happiness. She hadn't seen him wash her hair in 100 years. The two went out together to ensure that monsters were not gathering around the barrier, and Shen made sure they would not approach again. Then she asked Tyria, "What will you do?" He replied, "I will go explore the village." She handed him a letter of recommendation that would open doors for him without inspection. And indeed, in the village, Shen passed before the rotation without being stopped or inspected. He then decided to join the Hunters Guild and waited his turn until the secretary summoned him to the leader. A conversation ensued about the letter Tyria had presented, and the leader also raised his letter. Noticing it contained a magical glow, he said, "As long as your letter has shimmered and wandered, it is indeed genuine. This letter opens the doors of the state without inspection and may even arrange a personal audience with the king." Shin vowed to keep it safe, then received his lowest rank membership card, G. The guild assigned him to an herb gathering mission. He went to the forest and spent a long time without success, as this mission was once for beginners, but has now become one of the most difficult tasks. Yet, a movement on his radar caught his attention, so he followed it to find a legendary monster ranked 359, with a wrecked carriage beside it. It was said that those who face it never survive. Despite its massive size, the monster was fast, and its reflexes brutal, so Shin fought it to no avail. Then, he remembered the power seal stuck on the monster, broke it, unleashed his hidden weapon, and the monster was blown away by the first strike and fell dead. Shin tried to catch the monster's flying sword but couldn't. The sword sped toward the royal palace instead. Shin settled for a gemstone torn from the monster and returned to the city, where adventurers were gathering around the flying sword. The guard told him that the monster Jack he had defeated had sent the sword, and whoever brought it must be powerful. Shin felt the weight of what he had done and quickly withdrew to the guild, where he met the secretary who informed him of an emergency meeting called due to news of the monster Jack approaching the city. But Shin requested the meeting be cancelled, saying, "I defeated the monster, and its stone is here in my hand. It lightens." Shin. When the girl hears it, she is shocked. Then another girl named Alice arrives, and the secretary tells her what Shin said. Alice is also astonished, but she says to him, "If you're serious about what you're saying, then the energy of the beast Jack must be trapped in the stone, and we need to verify that." The secretary then takes him for an examination. During this, Shin asks Alice if these beasts always appear like this or not. The girl replies, "No, these are rare beasts born from the negative energy that forms from people after they die. However, the forest doesn't contain enough magical energy for such beasts to appear." Here, Shin says, "This means it's a legendary and extremely rare beast to appear, right?" The girl agrees, and then both are shocked and say to him, "If what you're saying is true, this means you have the strength of a group of rank A, and not alone." Shin asks them to keep this matter a secret among themselves, so as not to attract more attention from others, then sits waiting for the result. A person enters the place who is truly feared, and sits next to Shin. When Shin looks at his spear, he recognizes it immediately. This cursed spear, Phenom, which can surpass the power of many super weapons, means this adventurer is no ordinary one, but a very fierce fighter. The boy sits with Shin and introduces himself saying, "My name is Felis, and how long have you been in the guild?" Shin replies, "I'm a complete beginner. I just joined exactly 2 days ago." Felis responds, "But your armor doesn't show you're a beginner at all. You're a seasoned fighter, and though you don't know me or my name, you must be a beginner. As I told you, my name is Phyllis, and they call me the vampire, because I get rid of zombies." Shin jokingly points to Phyllis's skin, and everyone is surprised at how Shin does that with him. But Phyllis easily jokes back, and they get acquainted. Then Shin takes a book and reads about the kingdom, and when he connects the events, he concludes that the inhabitants of this world are the same characters the players used to choose. But now, they are people with their own minds, controlled by no one. While wandering, Shin meets a little girl named Millie and gets to know her. She tells him there's a fox in the forest that needs to be saved. Felis comes to take her, but Shin doesn't understand how this girl knew about the fox in the forest, or why she didn't tell Felis herself. He heads to the forest and finds a temple in a specific location, protected by a mental barrier that tells Shin to leave, but due to his strength, he easily enters. Inside, he finds the fox trapped in a magical circle, nearly dead, and rescues it. Suddenly, numerous monsters appear, and Shin begins fighting them one by one. Then, 2 more creatures emerge from nowhere, gatekeepers who were statues, but transformed into powerful wolves. One attacks Shin with fire, the other with ice, both exceeding level 600. Shin uses his shadow binding technique on them, but the 2 foxes are not easy opponents, as they activate an ability that literally turns the area into shadow. They attack him again, and he barely escapes, unable to locate them. To defeat them, Shin must use his full power, but doing so would harm the fox. So, he places it back in the magical circle to unleash his strength freely, without risking injury to the fox. Indeed, when he uses his full power, the 2 foxes are bound by sacred chains and defeated in a single strike. He then meets Nawa, the little fox, and tells her that she is a rare monster that took human form in the game, named the Racial Zill, but she fell in love with him, and they became a pair. On the other side, Rose receives a message saying that Shin has returned, leaving her shocked. Shin then decides to go back to the guild to inform them about the massive number of monsters in the forest. but he doesn't want to mention anything about the fox. He proposes a contract with them, allowing him to hide his true skills and level. The fox agrees, and the contract is sealed. He then names her Yuri. Later, a message arrives from Terra, informing him that his message has reached Rose. Shin is overjoyed and returns to the guild to report what happened. Shin went to undertake a new mission, noticing it wasn't classified according to the usual ranks. He realized it belonged to the institution where Miley resided, so he decided to go, both to satisfy his curiosity about her and to pass the time. He headed to the church, where he met a nun who was surprised by his agreement to the task. She assured him he was capable of helping them, but he replied that he would only agree after learning their objective first, and that he had also come to inquire about Miley. The nun's hesitation wavered, and she reassured him that Miley was still at the institution. Shin then informed her that he had fulfilled Miley's request without seeing her since then. Shortly after, the nun brought Miley, who rushed to embrace him the moment she saw him. Delighted, the nun remarked, "You must be a good man. Miley doesn't warm up to people easily." Shin explained that the fox he had saved earlier was the same one who had asked for his help. He then questioned the nun about the mission's purpose. She replied that they needed someone with a specific skill to teach others. Shin deduced it was healing, but she corrected him. It was purification, admitting its difficulty. Shin reassured her it was quite simple, provided there was something in return. The nun grew suspicious, assuming he would demand payment, but Shin said, "All I want is to know Miley's strength and the latest information you receive." The nun was puzzled, but Miley affirmed her trust in him, so the nun agreed. Then it became clear that Miley possessed the ability of foresight. She often had visions that came true. If not for the secrecy surrounding her, others would have exploited her, so the church kept her matter confidential. Shin also learned that an adventurer from the guild was protecting the church and deduced it was Phyllis, as everyone feared him, and no one dared to accept the mission before him. Later, Shin went out and sat with the children, where two girls approached him asking, "Are you the one who will help us? The nun told us you are kind and will save us." Confusion crossed Shin's face, and one of them explained that the sect leader intended to exterminate them out of greed and love for money. Understanding the situation, he returned to the nun, who introduced him to the girl he would teach. Her name was Alice. Shin asked her about the most common locations where zombies appeared, and she replied, "The Ghost Plains." Specifically, to learn, she would need to defeat 200 zombies, each with a level above 150. Alice held the sacred orb, and Shin carried one as well. When Phil arrived, he was amazed at how Shin could defeat 200 zombies while simultaneously protecting Alice, so he headed to the location with them. Shin and Phil began eliminating the monsters, while Alice's level rose rapidly until they reached the barrier set up by the guild to protect the rest of the forest, as the monsters beyond it were extremely dangerous. There they split up. Shin and Yuri stayed with Alice, while Phil and Shin moved toward a new group of monsters, easily overcoming them. Elsewhere, Princess Ryan and her entourage battled the monster Scalves and barely managed to defeat it. They were surprised when the silver-haired elf arrived, taking charge of the second group and saving the fighters. Then, Rose appeared and swiftly assessed the super monster before turning to assist, restoring her energy before the monster renewed its attack. With a swift move, she saved everyone, then cast a spell that healed their wounds in seconds, clearing the area to ensure it was free of danger. The commander was astonished by Rose's extraordinary abilities, as they had always regarded the rank S as the strongest among human swords. Thus, Rose deserved a sublime human mask. On the other side, Phils and Alice stormed into the battlefield, managing to defeat a monster of a similar kind. After the battle, a golden aura enveloped Alice, and she heard voices in her mind declaring that Shin had acquired a new skill. At that moment, an aura appeared in the sky, drawing in the souls of the defeated monsters. The debris soon gathered to form a colossal beast, which shattered the barrier with a single strike. Everyone fled as it let out a deafening roar, revealing the surrounding skeletal remains. Shin stood with a resolute expression, and Phil suggested fleeing, but Shin refused, saying, "I must kill this beast now. If it continues, it will threaten the city." He unleashed a tremendous aura, and Fils, stirred by this, channeled his energy to enhance his power, thus entering the confrontation. Yuri appeared to support him, so she used fire magic. Shin decided to launch one final massive attack, causing an explosion that wiped out vast numbers of monsters. Later, the battle escalated between Shin and Rose against the boss, so they joined hands side by side, unleashing a giant aura that annihilated everyone in the area in a single second, restoring Yuri's energy. Only the boss remained, so Shin drew the strongest sword he possessed, and with his full power, he struck him down. The monster vanished into thin air, leaving behind the stone. At that moment, Shin told Rose what had happened, and she confirmed that all the supporting characters, including Rose, had logged out and disappeared. They agreed that when he disappeared, they were supposed to disappear as well, but they didn't. Instead, they searched for him for a long time in vain, until each went on with their lives, and Rose returned to the Moon Temple. We shift to Ryo and her companions, who arrived at Shin's location and found devastation. They realized the aura that appeared was due to him and Rose. They found the sword that caused this destruction, which the guard described as belonging to someone crazy enough to leave such a powerful weapon here. The weapon bears an eagle engraving and is crafted only by the legendary blacksmith, the strongest exalted human of the prosperous era. As you might have guessed, that blacksmith was Shin, but no one knew except Rose. After that, Phil felt a dangerous aura approaching them while running. He quickly descended towards Alice, telling her to hide, saying that what was coming was not a natural monster. But in the end, it turned out that the arrivals were just Shin and Rose. Alice faints from extreme tension, and everyone sits down to rest after the battle. Phil starts talking to Shin and asks him to tell everything about himself and how he possesses such immense power. Shin intends to lie, saying that Rose was the one who defeated the monsters and granted them enhancement magic. But Phil attempts to attack him with his weapon. Shin then displays astonishing speed in his reaction. Phil tells Shin that he knows he is lying and insists on knowing the truth and who the person is that made Rose, the strongest character, bow to him. Then, Shin confesses everything and tells him that he belongs to the superior humans, recounting his entire story. After that, he asks if there are any stories or history books that talk about the superior humans. Phil informs him that the superior humans are considered rulers due to their great power and skills. Shin remarks that he is not as powerful as they think, but he is completely confident in his blacksmithing skills. Phil is surprised to learn that Shin is a blacksmith. After that, everyone rests and then returns to the city. Philos tells Shin not to worry about church affairs, saying he will handle everything from now on. He gives Shin a magical letter and tells him to contact him anytime he's needed. Afterwards, Shin returns with Rose to the Moon Temple. While Tara was speaking, she was surprised to see Shin and asked them when they had met. Shin replied, "Let's eat first, then I'll tell you everything." Tara exclaims in surprise, "Wait, you're joining us for dinner too?" Rose responds with a smile, "Didn't I tell you? Shin owns this place?" Tara is shocked and says, "But the owner was supposed to be a high-ranking human." Shin laughs and replies, "I told you before, but you didn't believe me." Then everyone sits down to a meal prepared from sacred beasts and rare plants. Tara sat in stunned silence, surrounded by a high-ranking human and a fox from the racial-tailed lineage, unable to believe what was happening. The next day, Yuri wakes up in her human form, as the fox-tailed beings can transform into humans. Now able to speak, Shin asks her why she was in the abandoned temple. She replies that she was resting there after dealing with natural disasters, but suddenly fell ill and nearly died, had it not been for Shin's intervention. During the conversation, Rose tells Shin that there is an important figure he should meet, one of the monsters who previously supported Shin, named Gerard. Shin is shocked because he knows that this type of monster typically lives no more than 150 years, yet Gerard has been alive for 500 years. Rose explains that Gerard's wish to meet Shin is the reason he has remained alive. Shin decides that their next destination will be the kingdom of Gerard. Rose suggests they establish a telepathic alliance to facilitate communication among them, and they succeed. Afterward, Rose decides to report the defeated monsters to the guild, while Tara chooses to stay at the Moon Temple. However, Shin informs her that they will take the temple with them. Shin enters the armory to replenish the weapon stock and crafts a set of swords, including legendary blades stronger than the mightiest sword in the kingdom. The next day, Shin takes Tara with him to the city for the first time. Tara is amazed by everything she sees. Then they head to the guild to issue a membership card for her. During this, Shin asks the secretary about the era of prosperity. but she informs him she cannot provide any information about it. She also tells him that despite his great achievements, he was only promoted by one rank to avoid controversy. Shin agrees and informs her that his next destination is the Monster Kingdom. They take on a mission to escort goods to a city near their destination. They wait until Terra's card is issued, and during that time, they stroll around a bit and enjoy some food. Later, they visit the church and learn that Alice has become its caretaker and that the church will not be demolished. However, danger still lurks from the former priest who may seek revenge. Shin gifts them magical amulets for protection, then plays a bit with the children before they return to collect the card. Shin gives Terra an instant teleportation stone, activating it for the Moon Temple, and they teleport within moments. He then shows her that the temple has been transformed into a small necklace thanks to magic. They then head to the mission site and meet their companions, a warrior lizard, a red-haired girl, and a dwarf merchant. At the same time, an emergency meeting is being held in the kingdom following the disappearance of the Moon Temple, with the king expressing grave concern. The story returns to our heroes, as the lizard warrior discusses the possibility of facing off against bandits. Shin explains to Terra that guard duties often require combat, whether against humans or monsters. Shin suggests that they each learn about the other's skills to increase their chances of survival, and so, the lizard is a samurai fighter who doesn't use magic. The red-haired girl specializes in enhancement magic. Terra uses healing magic and has some archery skills. As for Shin, he is a samurai, a mage, and possesses exceptional skills in various fields. While Shin and his companions were heading to the new city, the lizard accompanying him began recounting details about the city and the guilds within it. Shin was surprised and delighted at the same time, as the guild names were part of an old game he knew, and he was even more astonished to learn that an entire city had been built around these guilds. Suddenly, the carriage stopped, and they got off to find bandits blocking their path. Shin ordered everyone to get back into the carriage, assuring them that he and the lizard would handle the situation. As for Terra, she hid in fear, recalling the lizard's earlier question to her. Have you ever killed someone before? She began trying to gather her courage. Shin and the lizard agreed to attack them. While the bandit leader mocked them and demanded their surrender, the goods and Terra, Shin's anger erupted, and a dark, sinister, demonic aura appeared around him. Terra noticed two enemies hiding among the trees, so she drew her weapon and killed them. Meanwhile, the lizard unsheathed his magical sword and began fighting with great skill. Terra also used speed and enhancement magic to kill her opponent with a single strike. Shin unleashed his rage on the remaining enemies until he reached their leader, whom he bound and began interrogating. Under threat, the leader confessed that someone from the church had sent them, reminding Shin of Alice and the nun's words about the priest's attempt to seize control of the church. After that, they arrived at the city of dwarves, where they were honored, then decided to buy a new carriage for travel. The shop owner told them they needed strong horses to pull the carriage, or they could use monsters if they could tame them. Shin contacted Rose, who informed him that she would soon finish her work in the kingdom, and would come to him within a day, bringing a monster to pull the carriage. Meanwhile, Rose talked about the state of the royal palace, how everyone was scared after the temple's relocation, and she was delighted to have left them in great tension, even rejecting recruitment attempts and marriage proposals from other kingdoms. The next day, Rose arrived, but she brought with her a massive sacred monster of level 751. Shin was shocked and said what he wanted was a monster to pull the carriage, not one that could pull an entire kingdom. However, Rose reassured him, explaining that the monster could shrink its size using illusion magic, and indeed, the monster reduced itself until it became the size of a small beast. Rose introduced them to the monster named Kajiro, and told them about its abilities, as it could use illusion magic and lightning magic. And so, they began their journey toward the kingdom of monsters. Although the monster Kajiro had shrunk in size using illusion magic, its appearance still drew the attention of passers-by in the city. As they continued their journey, Yuri started talking to Kajiro, asking about its past. Kajiro shared its story, explaining that when it was young, it lived with its mother on the sacred mountain and ruled it together. However, this life did not last long. One day, a powerful adventurer attacked them and managed to defeat its mother. Kajiro barely escaped and was found by an elf girl who saved and cared for it. After that, Kajiro worked hard to strengthen itself, spending many years training until it finally returned to the mountain stronger than before. Rose concluded that Kajiro wasn't afraid of her when they met, due to his strength, but Kojiro clarified that the real reason was that he smelled in Rose the same scent carried by the elf who had once saved him. Terra's eyes widened in surprise as she remembered how, when she was little, she had found a wounded monster and cared for it, but it suddenly disappeared without her ever seeing it again, despite her long search. Everyone then realized that Terra was the elf girl who had saved Kojiro in his childhood. Rose offered to transfer ownership of Kojiro to Terra, since the two had known each other for a long time. With both parties agreeing, the contract between Rose and Kojiro was dissolved, and Terra formed a new contract with him. However, Kojiro's power was so immense that Terra fainted after the contract was made, prompting everyone to decide to rest and continue their journey in the morning. That night, Shin sat with Rose and said to her, "You transferred the ownership of Kogero to Terra to protect her, didn't you?" She replied with a smile, "Yes, I wasn't comfortable leaving her alone, but with Kogero around, we can rely on him." Shin smiled gently and said to her, "As for me, in difficult times, I find no one to rely on but you." Rose was extremely happy with his words, and her joy seemed overwhelming. The next day, they resumed their journey until two people approached them. Shin sensed an overwhelming power emanating from them, but Rose reassured him, saying she had asked Gerard to send reinforcements, and they were his grandsons. Shin shrank the carriage using his magic, and also shrank Kogero himself to Yuri's size. Then they all proceeded together until they finally reached Gerard. He welcomed them, Gerard, warmly, and Shin said to him, "I didn't expect you to still be alive." Jared laughed in response, answering, "Neither did I, but I was certain I'd see you again." Then he introduced them, Gerard, to those present, saying, "This is my 8th grandson, the current king of beasts, nicknamed Wolf King, and this is my daughter Kaori. The other two are my assistants." Everyone got to know each other and began reminiscing about past battles when they fought together against the fiercest beasts. One battle was so horrific that they lost count of the beasts they killed, but they ultimately survived miraculously. They returned to the present, and Gerard laughed and said, "Those were the days of our youth. I never thought we'd survive back then." Then he turned to Shen and said, "Let's talk seriously. You don't know how long I've been waiting for this meeting. I only have 1 month left to live. I feel physical changes indicating my end is near, but I'm happy because I'll fulfill my final wish." Shin asked him in surprise, "And what is it?" Gerard answered him with a resolute look, "To fight you, Shen. You have always been the greatest warrior I've ever met in my life. I want to know if my strength, which I've always prided myself on, will hold up against you." Initially, Shen was reluctant to fulfill his request, but in the end, he agreed out of respect for his wish. Rose heard the conversation from afar, and sadness overcame her because she feared that the end of Gerard would be at the hands of Shin. Jared continued his conversation with Shin, saying, "I haven't told any of my followers yet, but I intend to be honest with them. My 8th grandson is strong and humble, and he will be the best to take my place." Shin asked him, "Aren't you regretting something?" Smiled Gerard and said, "My only regret is that I haven't fought you yet." Then he gathered his followers and told them his wish, and everyone accepted his decision except Kaori, who burst into tears. "Won't you try to stop him? I don't want him to die." But everyone remained silent, while her grandfather gently said to her, "Kaori, I've lived many years, during which I've seen many of my children and grandchildren die before my eyes. My time has come now, and I want you to witness this battle and be proud of it afterward." As the days passed, Shin worked on repairing Gerard's old weapon, enhancing it to become stronger than before. Gerard thanked him and asked about his intentions with Rose, and whether he had found a way to return to his own world. Shin replied, "Ras, I will return, for that is the only reason I've stayed until now." Then the time for the duel arrived. Gerard bid farewell to his grandchildren, entrusted them with the care of the kingdom, and then he and Shin headed to the forest. They took their fighting stances, and the fierce battle began, exchanging powerful blows that destroyed the surrounding forest. Shin attempted to strike him, but missed, instead cutting down numerous trees, while Gerard counterattacked once again. During the fight, Gerard said to Shin, "Doesn't this battle remind you of our days 500 years ago?" Shin replied with a smile, "It feels like it was just yesterday." The two fought with intense enthusiasm, astonishing the onlookers with their immense power. Rose remarked, "The real fight hasn't even begun yet. All this is just a warm-up." The duel continued, and Gerard said to Shin, "Although I've developed new techniques and trained extensively, they haven't affected you as I expected. But everything so far has just been play. Now it's time to get serious." With that, Gerard unleashed his true power and transformed into his beast form. Shin attempted to use lightning magic against him, but Gerard vanished and reappeared behind him with astonishing speed, attacking once more. Shin miraculously managed to block the attack, then retreated only to find Gerard preparing a finishing blow, saying, "Behold now, this is my ultimate technique. Legendary excellence." Gerard unleashed immense power upon Shin, who tried to block it, but Gerard caught him off guard with another attack from behind. They exchanged fierce blows, utilizing everything they had learned throughout their lives. Then Shin flew high, muttering to himself, "I underestimated Gerard and didn't fight him with my full strength. Now is the time." He gathered all his power and unleashed it, while Gerard also used legendary excellence once again. From the intensity of the collision, Shin's sword and Gerard's gauntlets shattered, which was exactly what Gerard had planned. He appeared behind Shin and said, "I have won." But suddenly, his strength waned, and he reverted to his human form, saying, "If it were up to me, I would have defeated you, but it seems this is my end." Shin replied sadly, "I didn't expect you to reach such a level. You've truly grown and become stronger." Gerard smiled and said, "I'm glad I was finally able to face you and land a successful attack, but I have one last request. Show me your true power, not the one you've displayed." Shin stepped back slightly and unleashed his true aura, which soared to the heavens. Gerard said in astonishment, "I knew you were strong, but not to this extent. This is my teacher." Then he breathed his last breath before Shin. Shin carried his body to the mountaintop and addressed his followers, saying, "You should be proud of him." Gerard reached a level of strength that allowed him to achieve a great feat by matching a supreme human. The kingdom's sorrow turned into pride and joy for his fate. Later, they buried Gerard amidst the grief of the entire kingdom. At night, Rose sat beside Shin, who was lost in thought at the place where he used to meet with Gerard. She hugged him and said, "It seems like you're about to disappear." Shin cried and replied, "I knew this was his wish, to die in battle, and yet I agreed. I didn't know losing my friend would hurt this much." Rose comforted him, saying, "You did your duty. Now, let out everything in your heart." It was truly a touching moment. As days passed, Shin appeared alongside Terra and Rose in disguise, wanting to meet a man named Dragon, one of Shin's former followers, who had now become a representative of the Clint Kingdom. They decided to go to the designated area for important figures who attended the funeral. Shin asked Rose, "Did Dragon become a king, like Gerard?" Rose replied, "He was once an emperor, but he stepped away from everything and retired." They went to Wolf King to inquire about him, and he informed them that he would arrive soon, asking them to wait. When Dragon arrived, Shin's facial expression changed, while Dragon stood before him and bowed, saying, "It's an honor to serve you once again." But Shin smiled and said to him, "No need for formalities, just call me Shin." They sat and talked. Then Dragon began to tell Shin the story that had been repeating frequently since the beginning of the anime. He recounted how he met Gerard, and how Gerard died content with his life. After that, Dragon asked Shin what he intended to do, and Shin replied, saying, "I found nothing in the books, so it seems I will return to the sacred mountain in hopes of finding something useful there." Dragon then told him that he would first return to the Clint Kingdom to finish some work, then join him later to assist. After that, they bid each other farewell, and Shin took the girls and went to the guild to look for a quest to raise their rank. They found a mission to kill goblins, so they decided to accept it. However, Kaori asked to accompany them as she had a mission there as well, so they agreed to let her join. After defeating the goblins, they accompanied Kaori to the forest to ensure her safety. There, Shin was relieved to see that the forest where he had fought Gerard had recovered. They then returned to the guild to collect their rewards, where the staff handed Shin a new letter from the guild branch in the kingdom, stating that the royal palace requested to meet him as soon as possible. Shin informed Rose and Terra about the matter, and they asked him the reason. He told them he didn't know, but then he remembered the sword that flew to the palace and what it had done there. Realizing why he was being summoned, they decided to temporarily postpone the promotion matter and announced their intention to accompany Shin, but Kaori apologized for not going with them. Shin reassured her, then asked about her father, because he wanted to give him something. Later, Shin met with Kaori's father and handed him Gerard's gloves, explaining that Gerard had instructed him to give them to him, and that he had changed the ownership name so Kaori's father could use them. When he wore them, he felt a great power and thanked him warmly. The next day, they used the teleportation stone and went to the site of the ancient moon temple. When Shin opened the map, he noticed that someone was watching them. Rose said that people believe the moon temple might reappear because they forgot it was movable long ago. They then headed to the guild where they met the leader, who was accompanied by the kingdom's sorcerer. The sorcerer spoke to Shin, saying, "You told us you knew nothing about the sword that flew into the palace. After assessing its power, we found it compatible with the monster stone you killed." Here, Shin realized that his secret had been exposed, and it was now necessary for him to clarify matters. The leader continued, saying, "We couldn't hide your name. But when people learned that you belong to the Moon Temple, things calmed down." After the second princess, Ryan barely managed to use the sacred sword to defeat a similar monster. People's admiration for your strength grew, and now she requests to meet you. Shin recounted what happened to Tara and Rose, and they concluded that the kingdom might be trying to recruit him, possibly planning to arrange a marriage with one of the noble ladies. They suggested an easy way out of this situation. He could tell them that he doesn't want to abandon his team and claim to be engaged to Tara to avoid controversy and forced marriage. The next day, Shen put on formal attire and went to the kingdom, where he met Brian. She took out the sword for him and said, "It seems you are one of the chosen ones, so I want to fight you." Her assistant was surprised and said, "Is this how a princess asks someone to fight?" She replied, "Then how can we test his strength without a fight?" I accompanied him to a massive arena designated for battles of the chosen. She told him that no one knows who built this arena, but it has been conventionally used for this purpose since ancient times. She asked Shin to choose a weapon, so he selected an ordinary sword to avoid seriously injuring her, while she chose a massive sword that was larger than her own size. The battle was announced to begin, and the two fiercely charged at each other. Ryan took advantage of her cunning move and threw the sword using her feet, but Shin easily dodged it. Then she retrieved her sword and said to him, "I didn't expect you to dodge my attack so skillfully, but I won't go easy on you anymore." Shin didn't anticipate her crazy moves, so he decided to match her stats and use the flash skill, but she also surprised him with her ability to use it. He attacked her, but she blocked the strike and hit the ground so hard that it cracked from the force of her blow. Shin thought to himself, "If I hadn't acted quickly, I would be dead now." Then he proposed ending the fight, saying, "Since our strength is comparable, what do you say we stop the battle here, especially since our swords are damaged?" Ryan agreed, then offered him to join the kingdom's army, but he refused, preferring to remain an adventurer. She told him she wouldn't pressure him, but clarified that because of the sword he threw, some considered him a criminal and demanded his imprisonment. As for her, she considered the sword a gift. She explained that it was their custom for a man to present a woman with a sword when proposing marriage, so she could kill him with it if he betrayed her. Shin began to feel nervous, but he told Ryan that he didn't mean for all this to happen. However, Ryan continued speaking and told him she would consider the sword a gift. If anyone asked her about marriage, she would say she refused. Then she asked him to give her the sword in exchange for money from her personal treasury, explaining that the money would be enough for him to live like a king until his grandchildren died. But Shin refused her offer, and instead of money, he asked her to allow him access to the forbidden areas of the library. Ryan agreed to his request. After that, they returned to the place, but were surprised to find a soldier lying on the ground. An elderly man approached them and cast a spell on the area while the guard tried to stop him, but the spell had already been activated. Shin noticed that someone was controlling the old man, and suddenly he and Ryan were transported to another location. Ryan knew this place and said to him, "This is the holy city of Kalka. How did we get here? This kind of magic is supposed to be forbidden and lost since the age of prosperity, and how could a powerful sorcerer like Cardinal Greel be controlled so easily? It seems we're dealing with someone extraordinary." Shin asked her if there was a nearby city, and she told him the name of the city. Then he contacted someone named Rose and explained what had happened. Rose said to him, "This mind control skill is forbidden, even if the royal family itself uses it. If they do, people will control them." Shin replied, "Exactly. It seems someone is after us. I can use a teleportation stone to get out of here, but I need the princess, so I'll have to return the usual way." After that, Rose went with Tara to the palace and told her everything that had happened. She said, "It's likely that the one who did this is a demon, because our real enemies are the demons. However, this demon is very strong, but we don't yet know how strong. Demons that appear human-like are usually extremely powerful." When they reached the castle, Rose used invisibility magic on herself and Tara to sneak into the prison. She then cast a sleeping spell on the guards and entered the old man's cell, who told her he remembered nothing about what had happened. At that moment, a fourth-tier demon attacked them. just as Rose had anticipated. Rose dodged its strike and said, "Finally, I meet one of you after 500 years. The demon recognized Rose and said to her, "Why do you protect humans? The age of humans is over, and the noble humans who once exterminated our demon kind have vanished. Why not join us?" But Rose severed its limbs and replied, "I won't join you for 2 reasons. First, I won't allow an innocent old man like this to be punished for something he didn't do. Second, if I let you live now, it would be a disgrace to the Moon Temple." The demon said to her, "The Moon Temple? Wasn't there a noble human who once lived there? Isn't that the master who abandoned and discarded you? Why defend that place? Join us." Roz got angry and hid the sword she had with her, saying to him, "You're right. Came at the wrong time. I could have believed you if you had come earlier." Then she drew the blue moon sword and in a few moments finished him off. After that, she went to the king and told him what had happened, saying that he should be prepared and keep the information to avoid public panic. She took Tara with her to the city Shin had told her about, and the situation began to improve. We returned to Shin, who was thinking about how to get out of this place. Ryan began explaining to him about the city, saying, "The holy cities were ancient cities, and they were destroyed during the Golden Age. This is my first time coming here, but I've heard that the monsters here are so strong that it takes many chosen ones to defeat just one." Shin said to her, "It seems we'll need weapons." She answered him, "Ryan, don't worry. When we moved, the monster's sword moved with us. So, I'm not afraid." As they were walking around the place, Ryan told her that there were 4 exit gates, each guarded by 4 other gates, and these gates contained the keys that opened the large doors. Shin thought outside the box and decided to jump over the fences. But when he tried to jump, he found himself back on the ground again, wondering what was happening. He took Ryan with him and said, "It seems like it's similar to a game." They went to one of the golden spheres, and Shin said, "This place resembles Damas. If we want to get out, we must follow this sphere and eliminate any monsters we encounter." Indeed, when they moved forward, they found a wizard-type monster in front of them, using wind magic, and surrounded by a whirlwind from all directions. Shin told Ryan to attack the monster, while he would deal with the whirlwind. True to his word, he used his sword and delivered a single strike that dispersed the whirlwind. Ryan also distracted the monster, while Shin used another sword and succeeded in defeating it. Ryan was surprised at how he obtained another sword, to which he replied that he is always prepared. Then they encountered a slime monster, and with Shin's instructions, they managed to defeat it. As they walked, Shin felt something pulling him, but he ignored the sensation until they reached the gate. There, he felt the monster dragging him toward it, but he dodged its attack, which used ice magic. Shin said to Ryan, "I'll be the bait, and you attack it." Indeed, they executed the plan, but the monster's head suddenly regenerated. Shin said, "It's probably using some kind of magic, and that magic is in the small door." Ryan went to search for the magic, while Shin used all his strength to attack the monster. He kept trying multiple times until he felt that pulling sensation again, but he continued fighting. After nearly 30 attempts, a crystal ball appeared inside the monster, and when Shin hit it with magic, the crystal began absorbing the magic. Shin decided to seal the monster, but Ryan managed to undo the magic, so Shin went to finally finish off the monster. After exiting the maze, they sat down to rest, and Shin had brought camping equipment with him. Ryan was surprised by this, so Shin told her, "I like to be prepared for everything." The next day, they woke up to a very loud noise coming from a herd of monsters heading towards the city of Malvir, which they were on their way to. This wave of monsters was capable of completely destroying the city. They decided to go to the city to save it. They arrived at the city and decided to split up. Ryan would go to the governor to warn him of the impending attack, while Shin would go to the Adventurers Guild to inform them, because they would need both the army and adventurers for the battle. Shin went to the guild leader and told him about the incoming wave of monsters. Then, a recommendation from the Temple of the Moon appeared to confirm his story. The guild leader agreed and told him they would act as quickly as possible. While Shin was wandering around the city, a sign on a shop caught his attention, and he found its name was Land of Meow. He felt like he knew this place, but he received a call from Rose, who told him she was about to arrive. He asked her to go to the guild and inform the leader that she would join the defense army. He asked her about the shop, but she said she didn't know it, so Shin continued walking. Suddenly, a figure with yellow hair stopped in front of him and said, "Finally, I found you. I never expected you to still be alive." This person was called Elif, one of the supporting characters of Shin's friend, named Barry. They sat together and talked, and Shin said he would offer his help in defending the city. Barry said, "But if this were a flood, you could have eliminated the monsters before they arrived." Shin replied that he couldn't use his full power because he was with Ryan and didn't want to draw attention. Then Shin asked about the shop he had seen and inquired if Barry knew anything about it. Barry replied, "Yes, the shop belongs to one of your friends. I thought the players had disappeared, but I stayed here." Shin answered in surprise, "No, there are many players who haven't disappeared yet, and some of them are in this city." Then Barry took out a paper containing the names of the players who were still alive, along with the names of the players' killers. Shin's gaze changed as he said, "I expected these people to exist. Many of my friends died by their hands. I will never forgive them." Barry continued speaking and said to Shin, "Ever since we learned that some players were still alive, Rose was the one who insisted we hunt down the players' killers. I know she hid this from you, and you consider her a traitor, but I'm sure she did it to prevent you from worrying." That night, when the battle began, Rose launched a massive attack that wiped out thousands of monsters in mere seconds. Then Shin stepped in, using his immense power to annihilate a large portion of them, though he held back to avoid drawing attention. Terra also used her bow, which Shin had enhanced, to deliver an incredibly powerful strike. Then the kingdom's guards intervened, engaging the monsters in combat. However, at that moment, a massive beast charged at Ryan, who was unable to defend herself. But at the last second, Filth arrived and saved her, leaving her surprised by his presence. He said to her, "The guild requested our support, and Miley also asked me to come help the kingdom." Through their cooperation, they managed to eliminate the monster. After that, Shin decided to end the battle once and for all. So he donned fireproof armor and drew his cursed weapon, clearing everyone from the area. In an instant, he disposed of all the monsters. But was this really the end? A demon appeared, the one responsible for the flood. He tried to play with Shin's mind, but Shin retorted, "You're a vile human. What are you doing here?" Using his full power, Shin succeeded in vanquishing him, thus bringing the battle to a successful conclusion. The next day, the kingdom decided to hold a celebratory ceremony in their honor. Rose approached Shin and apologized for hiding everything Barry had said from him. She began to cry and said, "I was afraid that if I told you about the player killers, you'd revert to the person you used to be. I couldn't believe you'd become better than before. And I know I can't take her place, but I was trying." Shin was surprised by her words, then hugged her and apologized for making her feel that way. He told her, "I was so happy that you were by my side, and I won't punish you for anything you've done." Then Rose asked him, "Do you still love Marin?" His facial expression changed as he said, "Yes, my feelings for her will never change." Rose replied, "All right, I understand, but I'll always love you even if you return to your world. I won't give up." Shin was even more surprised by her words. As days passed, he began thinking to himself, "Until I find a way back to my world, I'll live here. I don't know what will happen with the player killers, but all I know is that there are people here who love me, and I should stay with them." And so, the story of the anime has ended. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about the anime. Goodbye.